Hey everybody, and welcome to this, my first of two videos on the Nikon F2. This is a camera that a lot of people request and have for a long time. And so I am glad to finally be able to make this video and bring it to you because this is a really, really neat camera. So the Nikon F2 is an interchangeable lens SLR, which simply means that the lenses can be taken off and put back on at any time when you're not taking a photo without ruining the images. The metering on this camera depends on the prism, but the kit prism that this camera came with used center-weighted metering. What that means is that an area about like what's inside of my fingers would have been used to determine the majority of the metering information, and then everything outside would have provided the balance of the metering information. The shutter speeds on this camera are 1 second to 1/2000th with bulb and time also. Magnification from the viewfinder varies by the prism, and so does frame coverage. The focusing screen in this camera is interchangeable between 15 types. All of those focusing screens are also compatible with the Nikon F. And the flash sync on this camera is 1/80th of a second, which is indicated by that red line between 1/60th and 1/125th. So 1/80th and slower, you can use any modern flash. 1/80th and faster, the green in shutter speeds, you could use bulbs, but bulbs aren't really made anymore, at least not in any sort of affordable price range. And they're just out of favor and uncommon now. So realistically, if you use a flash with this camera, you're going to be using a modern xenon or X or electronic flash, multiple names for them. And you'll be using 1/80th and slower shutter speeds to take flash photos. We'll talk about that in the second video in greater detail. The Nikon F2 was targeted at the professional users. It is the consummate system camera. Has exceptional build quality, tons and tons of stuff that can be connected onto it to make it very versatile. And it has features that for its time were well above and beyond feature sets from lower tier cameras. It was made by Nikon in Japan from 1971 to 1980. It was preceded by the Nikon F, concurrent with the FTN, FT2, FT3, FS, ELW, FE, EL, EL2, FM, and EM, because it had such a long production run. And then it was followed by the Nikon F3. So if you have your Nikon F2, we will go over the different features on it, starting on the top, though technically on the front with the strap lugs that you connect your camera strap to. Over here we have the film rewind knob and lever, and those are on a flash hot shoe port right here. There's a little adapter that goes on this that allows you to put a flash over that. I don't have the adapter for it. Model number F2, serial number. This is where your prism goes. And let's see if I'm strong enough to get it off. There we go. So the prism goes here. We have the focusing screen and whatever prism you would like to put on. The waist level finder is the only prism that I have for this camera. Shutter speed dial right here. So you can select your shutter speed. That little black line in the middle is your index to let you know which shutter speed you are set to. Oh, it spins, so I'm actually set to 1/250th. There we go. Shutter release. And we have your time shutter speed, as well as a shutter lock over here to access. So there's a little notch right here. And when it's in the middle, pointing forward, you can use your shutter. If you lift this and turn it to lock, you cannot use your shutter. If you lift it and turn it to time, your shutter opens, and then you can turn it off of time to close your shutter. Frame count window, film advance, and I believe that the red dot indicates that your meter is on if you have a metered prism. Yeah, because it's not a lock. The red dot is the meter on indicator. It's right there in my notes. Anyway, okay, on the camera's front, self timer, depth of field preview and mirror lockup, and I'll show you what that does here right now. So depth of field preview pushes this little lever down, which engages your aperture and stops it down so you can see approximately what your depth of field will be. So let me set this lens to f/22, get some light inside of it. There you can probably see that the aperture stops down when I push that button to f/22. Mirror lockup, after you push the depth of field preview down, will lock up the mirror so that you can do things like astrophotography or microscopy or other critical, or even waterfall photos from a tripod. Critical types of photos where you don't want to have shutter shake. What you do is you get your focus, you get everything dialed into the camera, then you lock up the mirror, and then you take your picture. And you're good to go at that point. To undo mirror lockup, you just rotate that the other way. And then of course your self-timer here, 2 seconds, 4, 6, 8, and 10. You can combine this with the mirror lockup if you want, so that you can hit your self-timer before, or you lock up your mirror before your self-timer. Lock up your mirror, hit your self-timer, walk away, and then what will happen is that this will count down. You don't have camera shake from pushing the shutter button, and that's just a good combination you can do. Lens mount index, lens release button right here. We'll see how to use that in the second video. Flash PC port over here. On the back we have the prism release here, the film memo holder, and on most prisms you'd have an eyepiece right here. On the camera's bottom we have the film back lock and unlock, battery chamber, tripod socket, film release button. I believe that is just a coupling alignment pin for the motor drive mechanical connection right there. To get into the camera's back, you flip that up, turn it to open, and now you can open the camera. There we go. So this is inside of the camera. And here we have the film cassette chamber. These are the film guide rails so that when the film comes off of the camera, they can move through it smoothly. And the inner ones keep the film with the pressure plate sandwiched up against the shutter so that the image is focused properly, and then the outer ones keep the film from moving up and down. Film tension sprocket. This keeps the film from moving backwards as it moves through the camera, but also keeps tension on it so that it advances properly. Film take-up spool. This little clip right here rests up against your film cassette to keep it properly aligned. Film pressure plate. And this guide roller rests right here to keep tension between on the film so that the sprockets engage the sprocket holes in the film. And then this little doodad right there is what you would push to get the film back off of the camera. To get it back on, you just line it up, push that little lever down again, and mount it, and you're set. And to close it, you turn this all the way again. And maybe it cooperates, maybe it doesn't. There we go. And lock it closed, and we're set. Some notes on the Nikon F2. There's a link in the description to destouts.ch that will take you to a serial number database. The F2 in this video, based on the serial number, which is 7737906, was made sometime between February and May 1977. So major improvements on this camera from the F included the faster minimum shutter speed of 1/2000th, a faster curtain travel time, which means a faster, slightly faster X-flash sync speed, and a film door instead of a removable film back. So some things not to do with your Nikon F2. Don't store the camera with the shutter ready to fire. So after you're done for the day, be sure to trigger the camera, because this is all mechanical. And so when you advance the camera and arm the shutter, you're putting tension on springs, and if they stay like that, they can be weakened, screwing up your shutter time, or they can even break, which will make your shutter inoperable. So store this with your shutter having been triggered. Don't touch the shutter because you can brick the camera. Don't touch the mirror because you can desilver it, which will screw up metering on metered prisms and also make it harder to focus just in general. Don't leave your camera and lenses in your car because the heat can cause the oils, especially in the lenses, to get thin and then get onto the aperture blades, which will screw up the ability of the aperture to work properly. Or also, the cold can cause the oils to break down and get really gummy, which can screw up the working in your camera's mechanisms. Don't store your camera in a plastic bag or box, as that can cause fungus to grow because water can permeate the plastic, and fungus can screw up your lenses by growing on it and ruining your image quality, or grow into your leather covering and give you a nice mildewy smell when you stick the camera into your face. If you do store it in a plastic container, make sure you have a rechargeable desiccant pack in there, like the Pelican packs, and that you keep it recharged. Don't let your camera get wet. Even though it's a professional camera, it is not weather sealed, and if you let it get wet, then you will risk the internal components rusting and the camera not working anymore. And just remember, your Nikon F2 is a precision tool and should be handled with care and respect. And as long as you take care of your camera will take care of you. Thank you for watching this video. Please give me a thumbs up. That lets me know that I'm on the right track producing content which is useful and helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comments section below. I'm pretty good about checking these every couple of days and answering questions. If you have any suggestions or ideas for future videos, and if I have the technical know-how and equipment, I'm more than happy to make those. One last thing. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I gotta get up, Steinbeck. I have to turn off the camera.